have them here. I think you heard a good discussion about what the dangers are of the legislation that was passed last Friday in the House of Representatives. The media call it cap and trade. We call it cap and tax. It's going to be detrimental to the American economy if it becomes law. It's not going to achieve the goals it set. It's going to send foreign jobs overseas. And again, it is going to hurt our economy tremendously. And with that, I'll turn the microphone over to the ranking member of the Energy and Commerce Committee, Congressman Joe Barton. Chairman.
Thank you, Congressman Olson. I'm delighted to be in your district. I'm delighted to be back in Houston, the energy capital not just of Texas but of the world. As we've just shown in our Texas Energy Summit, energy is important to the Texas economy, both from a production standpoint and a consumption standpoint. The Waxman-Markey cap and tax bill that barely passed last Friday, 219 to 212, if it were to pass the Senate and be signed by President Obama, in my opinion, would be a direct attack on Texas's economy. Our panelists today, from a broad spectrum of Texas energy production and economic activity, agreed with that assessment. One of the things that's most troubling about the passage of the bill is that the EPA, in preparing their endangerment finding, and you have to, if you're going to regulate under the Clean Air Act a commodity, you have to show that it is a danger to human health, and that requires an endangerment finding. The EPA issued its endangerment finding in early April. They had a very brief comment period. Keep in mind the Obama administration didn't take office until mid-January. So in early April, they issued this endangerment finding, which is required by law. A group within the EPA that is tasked with doing an economic and environmental analysis drafted a report that showed, apparently, that the science wasn't conclusive. In fact, the author of the report has stated publicly that his analysis shows that the basic science that the White House based its endangerment finding on is out of date and is flawed in significant detail. This report was suppressed by the EPA. It was not forwarded. It was not made a part of the official record. And as far as we can tell, the decision makers in the White House knew nothing about the report. The director of the study kept asking the director of the Institute to put his report in the record. And the Institute director finally sent him an email in late March that said, I don't want you to talk about this. I don't want you to contact anybody on the outside. I don't want you to do any more work on it. Your finding is not only not helpful, it is harmful. And the decision has been made. They are going to go forward with an endangerment finding. Now, that is flat wrong. That is against the law. It is against common sense. And as a consequence of that, as the ranking member on the Oversight and on the Energy and Commerce Committee, I have sent a formal letter to the administrator at the EPA, Lisa Jackson, asking that the report be released officially, number one, and number two, we get all the documents behind the suppression of this report. And I am gratified to know that yesterday, two senators in the United States Senate have joined me in asking for an investigation and a release of the report and the documents. If you show that the endangerment finding was biased and not done according to the law, you really call into question whether there should even be a cap and tax climate change bill moving forward. So this issue with the EPA, my staff is calling it Carbon Gate. It is a suppression of the evidence. It is a cover-up, or at least you could conclude by looking at these initial emails that it is a cover-up. And we need to have a full investigation, and in my opinion, a full airing and transparency of this issue before the Senate does anything further on this bill.
Thank you. My name is Pete Sessions. I'm a member of Congress from Texas' 32nd Congressional District in Dallas. also chairman of the National Republican Congressional Committee. And I'm so pleased to be here with Pete Olson in his home district and joined by Chairman Barton. Today we have heard testimony and a lot of information about what is known as the cap and trade, or the national energy tax that passed the U.S. House of Representatives this last Friday. As a member of the Rules Committee, I was there at 3 o'clock a.m. on Friday morning when the bulk of the Nancy Pelosi National Energy Tax Bill was presented to the Rules Committee. The bill, which had two sponsors, came to the committee earlier in the day, and we heard testimony on the bill. The bulk of what the impact would be in the bill arrived at 3 o'clock in the morning. Only a few hours later, we debated and very quickly passed the bill. We believe that it's important, and so we're here today for not only the American public, but also those in Texas to understand very directly the impact that this national energy tax will have upon Texas, upon the lives of Texans, and that impact on our families. It is very clear to me that Mrs. Pelosi has moved this piece of legislation as a result of her context as a liberal member from California. California is going through and in the midst of liberal changes that have taken place not only in environmental policy but other taxation policies that have driven them to the brink of bankruptcy. They are now $24 billion in debt. They have diminishing employment, and they are unsure of exactly how they will even pay their government employees. The impact of this radical environmentalist policy is to diminish jobs. It is to place a burden upon families, and perhaps worst of all, it will do nothing to clean up our air or the environment. We believe as Republicans that we have presented not only a case where we can have a better, cleaner environment as conservationists, but that we can keep the jobs, not just in Texas, but across this country. We believe as Republicans that a balanced, moving forward energy policy, one that will preserve the jobs in America and make sure those who are impacted most, those who are disabled, those who are senior citizens, and those who are the poorest in our country should have an advantage with an energy policy, not be placed at a disadvantaged circumstance. We deeply disagree with the radical environmentalist policy that Nancy Pelosi and President Barack Obama have brought to bear. We intend to make sure that the American people, and we're asking them today, to please take a look at the bill, its economic impact, the impact that it will have on families, the impact that it will have on jobs in America, and the real impact that it will do nothing to make sure that we have a clean environment. So, as we look to Nancy Pelosi, I believe the facts that are clear. Nancy Pelosi's national energy tax will kill American jobs, it will raise prices on hardworking families, and do little to clean our environment. I want to thank each and every one of you for being here today, for Chairman Barton for standing strong as he has for these years, to make sure that the American public understand that Republican policies that will help and encourage jobs in this country are important, and those members of Congress like Pete Olson, who have come to Washington with a pledge to make sure that the people in those congressional districts that they represent will receive a fair opening to make sure that he studies not just the impact, but will take care of the people in his district so that America's greatest days lie in our future.